Okay, so today's topic, we're gonna start talking about the importance of the DNA health and wellness, and we're going to focus only on the macronutrients part so we can have some better information or better knowledge about what's the importance, what's behind this, what do we want to achieve with this, okay? So I'm going to share you my screen with the PowerPoint, and we're gonna start with that. Hello, Babs and Bill. Nice seeing you again. Okay, let me just... I'm going to share you. Okay, so here we are. So we're back again with the Smart Life DNA Health and Wellness, but today we're only going to focus and learn about macronutrients. So first of all, what are macronutrients and why is this important? So I've just I've done a snip from the one-page genetic summary highlights. As you can see on your right, there's a small image. That's how the report looks, and we're just going to focus on the first part, which is macronutrients. So the major nutrients we require in larger amounts. Basically, we have three groups: carbs, proteins, and fats. When we're talking about carbs, we have to make a specific explanation, because sometimes we might think that carbs are only maybe bread and oatmeal, pasta, rice, but actually carbs, it's a much more complex group than only these types of foods. So I want to make that point clear, because like I shared last days in Chicago, many people had also the issue that whenever you have your macronutrient pie chart or ratio on how to eat or how to balance your diet, we have a fairly high amount of carbs suggested for our diet. So some of you came to me and asked me, why is that, like, why is it so high? Regularly the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, has certain guidelines on how to eat, the food pyramid, my plate, and all of these guidelines that we've been following. Even I would say they give a guideline not only for US but for the entire world. It's widely used, and I have a very easy answer for that. Carbs, first of all, they're a large group of food, which we can include fruits, vegetables, and all types of breads, oatmeals, and like pasta and all of these. So we not necessarily have to understand carbs as, okay, I have 60%, 65% of carbs in my diet, so I'm just going to eat plenty of pancakes or waffles, or I'm going to eat plenty of white bread. because that's not the main point. Whenever we are talking about diet, this is an endless learning experience. There's never going to be enough time for us to talk about food. I'm just going to give you some approach, but it's our duty, it's our responsibility to choose what we eat. Therefore, we need to learn and we need to understand and to identify which types of foods belong to which group, okay? So as you can see in in the PowerPoint, we have mainly carbs, proteins, and fats. Carbs, it's the body's preferred energy source, or as I like to call it, is the fast fuel energy for our body. So it's very comfortable for the body to use energy, to use like the raw material, the raw energy, fuel, for us to sustain our activities, all of our thinkings with carbs, because the molecule is very simple, okay? Then we have proteins. They're a key for building muscles, organs, bones, enzymes, and many more. Proteins are also a basic food type for our body. And then we have fats. As I've been telling you before, fats are not the bad actor of the movie. We do need fats, but we need them in a fairly low amount or a low quantity. Therefore, we also need to understand which are the good fats from the bad fats, which we are going to talk maybe later on some other event. We can focus really on just the do's and don'ts for fats, because it's a very interesting and very complex topic. But for now, I'm just going to talk to you about the three main categories for you to understand, and for you, when you get your DNA test results, you can improve your use, and you can know how to get better information and how to understand it better, okay? So once we have our macronutrient wheel, we're going to have that chart with the different percentage, and we made it round, as I have explained it before, because it tries to be similar to a plate. So whenever you're thinking about your food, you have your plate, and then you start thinking, okay, so my ratio, it's I don't know, 60, 20, 20, for example. So whenever you're trying to choose your foods, you're going to follow this pattern. But for doing that, first we need to know which foods belong to which group, okay? So I'm going to just hold on. I'm going to go back to Zoom just to see if everyone is hearing me. No one's having problems. I'm not having today Antonio with me, so normally he messages me. I'm just going to take a quick look on the Zoom conference, see if everyone's doing okay. All good. Okay, great. Yeah. Let me just minimize this. Okay, and let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, sorry about that. So as you can see here, we have what I was talking to you about, your meal planning. So we have to match our meal to our will, right? So there we have in the right top corner of your screen, you have your plate, and then you have your chart. So then we suggest in your result, in your report, we do give some tips on how to balance this, but ideally you're gonna get bored of doing the same. So the best thing that I can recommend to all of you is to learn about identifying the foods and what group they belong. We provide some interesting examples like the ones you see here on the screen. What to eat for breakfast, how to eat for lunch or for a snack. But this is just an example. Imagine you eating 7 days a week the same oatmeal and berries. You're gonna kill me next week when we talk about the next topic. So this is just an example. What I want you to know is that we need to, first of all, get rid of this pyramid. This pyramid was introduced in 1974 in Sweden, and then in the US it was introduced in early 1990s. After 15 years approximately, in 2005, they changed it. Why? Because they knew that the food pyramid had a lot of faults. So I want you to, first of all, get rid of that scheme, because we came with a better scheme, that it's the one you have in your report, the wheel or the pie chart, however you want to call it, that it's the one we have in our report. So here's a picture of carbs, proteins, and fats. First of all, we need to understand that even though there are basically three different big groups of foods, foods are complex molecules that do not only have one type of food. We can have one food that is going to be 80% carbs, is going to have some sorts of some percentage of fat, and it's also going to have some amount of protein. But overall, it's going to belong to one of these three groups, right? Depending on the majority of its molecules. So in carbs, we have complex carbs are the best ones. So we have whole wheat bread, we have some seeds, we have some whole wheat pasta, whole wheat rice, we have some vegetables, we have some fruits. Potatoes are also carbs. Not so good because we're going to see these differences, but basically I want to show you that carbs, it's a vast group. It's not only focused on bread and pancakes, as many of us think of carbs. Whenever we say carbs, the first thing that comes into our minds, it's bread. When we say carbs in healthy eating lifestyles, we have to think of fruit, vegetables, and whole wheat breads or whole wheat grains. Then we're moving into proteins. We have plant-based and we have animal-based proteins. There has been some debates about which ones are better. It's hard to say because whenever you see a lot of research, either they're funded or they're biased because they're funded by some organic plants company, or they're funded by the International Poultry Committee or the meat industry. It's a war. It's very tough to decide which ones are good. So I'm not going to tell you which ones are good. I'm going to tell you what works for me better and what I give advice for my patients. And I say the next. Everything in excess, it's bad. If you keep on doing, if you engage in a healthy lifestyle where you eat in moderate amounts of whatever you're eating, either plant-based protein, animal-based protein, carbs, if you do it in a moderate way, you're going to be fine. Not too much, not too less. Go in the middle. Always balance. Okay? Then, okay. So let's talk a little bit more about proteins. Dairy products also have some protein, but then that's when it comes being tricky, because then you say, okay, so dairy, it has a lot of fat, but it's also a good source of protein. So where should I put it, right? You can say salmon. Salmon, it's also very rich in protein. It has high amounts of protein, but it also has high amounts of fats. So even though we recommend it for healthy lifestyles, it's not that you need to take it on a 24/7 diet, okay? Everything in moderation is the best advice I can give to you. Red meat has also some secondary effects. There are some studies that are linking some eatings of red meat into some inflammation of the bowel and some other diseases caused by this. But I would say that if you do it in moderate amounts, you won't have any problems of this. Whenever we're talking about fats, we also have animal-based and plant-based, but we just have to start digging a little bit more about it. I'm not going furthermore, even though I love this topic. It's one of my favorites. I do eat very healthy, so I dig a lot about the food. Where do they come from? What type of food am I eating? What type of group they belong to? But I'm going to leave this for each and every one of you to dig as much or to go as deeper as you want to do. I'm just setting up a benchmark. You can go from now, you can go deep down under and find how fascinating this topic is. And the more you know, the more health conscious you become, the more evidence-based decisions you can make whenever eating food. Believe me, for me, it's very easy. It is also, whenever you know what type of food you're eating, you won't eat it. When you dig about how fast food is made, believe me, you won't have the desire anymore to eat that type of food. So it's also easy because you start digging more, getting more information, and the next day you're just making these decisions on what to eat, what to drink unconsciously, and you're doing the right choices. Why? Because you already know about it. You know what is good for you, what is bad for you, and then it's even easier for you to follow a diet because you won't fall into temptation of going into something that is fried, because you know how your body works, and you know how these types of foods benefit your body, and what types of foods affects or slows down the metabolism of your body. So here you can see how they have a meeting point. They overlap. You see some carbs, maybe only carbs. They will also for sure going to be rich in vitamins. Some of them are going to have some micronutrients, as we call them, the vitamins and minerals. You see how some carbs or some fruits and vegetables are going to be in the middle because they also have some small amount or certain amount of proteins, so we cannot exclude them if they're going to be in the middle. We have some proteins that are only proteins, and then we also have some proteins that are high on fats. Like I told you, dairy products and salmon, eggs are right in between. So do eat them. This is not a stop sign. This is just be cautious, because if in your plate, for example, you're going to eat, let's say, pasta, and then you're going to put salmon, but on top you're adding some olive oil and you're having some avocado, then you might have some extra intake of fat than the one you would need from your wheel or your pie chart, that it's recommending you, for example, 20% of your plate should be fats, and you're having a glass of milk with toast with cheese, and you're having salmon with pasta. So even though you might achieve the carbs side or the carbs percentage, you're not achieving the fat percentage because you're going way more higher than this. This is, I want you to remember, always, it's very easy. Once you know how your body functions with the DNA health and wellness test, you know your percentage, you know your will, as we call it, and this you have it in your mind. And as you go, days go by and you look furthermore, you will start to differentiate these types of food to categorize them into the three main groups: carbs, proteins, and fats. But also know that some of these may overlap. And also, one big important thing about this is that the way we eat them or the way we cook them, that also influences on how we're going to measure it in the end in our will. Because it is not the same as, for example, having steamed chicken than if we're going to fry it, right? We can have a steamed chicken that it's going to be very healthy, very high in protein, but then if we go on the other side and we fry it, then it's not only going to be protein, but it's also going to be high on fat. If we eat this tender crisp chicken or fish, this fish fingers, I don't know how they call them, or the ones with the crumbs and the breadcrumbs. These ones are fried, so they're not only true. You're gonna tell me, oh, but I'm eating my protein and I'm eating the percentage that my report allows me. But yeah, you're doing it in the wrong way because you're eating it fried. So then whatever good may come out of the protein that you chose of eating fish, everything goes down because you're eating it in the wrong way. So also learning how to eat your food is going to improve your health. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to feel lighter. Your mood is going to change. Believe me, once you start eating in the correct manner, doing it in a moderate way, you're going to feel how light you feel. Even after snacks, you won't feel as full as before, because we're taking the right amount of fuel energy for our body. We're taking carbs in the right amount, that it's the fast fuel energy. We're taking a small amount of proteins, that it's good enough for our muscles, our bones, and our vital organs to function, but we're not taking more than we should to make us, because, you know, for metabolizing proteins, it's funny, but we also use carbs, because proteins, since it's a more complex molecule, our body requires more energy to break down these molecules of protein. So if we only have protein, then we have an unbalanced diet, because the few amount of carbs that we're going to have, they're not even going for fast fuel for our brain, our body. They're going to be over trying to digest the proteins that we took. So knowing our will, knowing our percentage, it's one of the best things we can do to enhance our health. And of course, always I always recommend you having from 1 to 2 liters a day of water added to this, so you can have a better functioning of your body. I'm just going to go back to Zoom so I can see, and Facebook, I can see some of the questions, and then we can call it a day. But let me just first check if any one of you has already done it. What are your thoughts? Let me know. I want to know more about all of you. Let's see. Hello, Curtis from Trinidad and Tobago. Babs and Bill not seen on Facebook. Okay, but it says it's recording and it's live streaming. Anyways, I will post it on Facebook once I've downloaded, because I am recording now. There is one question here. Where can we know more about the food groups? Okay, one very reliable source is the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA. That's where the food pyramid was once introduced. Then it was changed to My Plate. You can learn more about the food groups. You can even interact. They have some interesting softwares. Nowadays, you have also apps that will do this, so you won't even have to look deep down under. You just have to look for a nutritional app where you can track your calories, you can track your carbs, proteins, fats. You can learn the different like foods, where do they belong to. And you can also learn, like, suppose, for example, you're going to this restaurant and you're going to have this meat with some pasta, for example, and you want to know, like, what are the main food types that you're eating with pasta and meat. So you can just introduce this, and then a lot of apps will tell you, well, meat has this percentage of protein, has this percentage of fat, depending on the cut. Then on pasta, you have this percentage of fat, 90% of carbs. And this way, you're going to start learning, and every day, maybe in the beginning, it's a little bit tougher. You're going to start Googling a lot of food to see where do they belong. But believe me, once you start doing it on a daily basis, you are going to start to see a pattern, and it's going to be very, very easy for all of you to decide on your food. Let's check on some other questions. Yes, Joseph, it's asking, can the DNA report be done for kids? Absolutely, yes. The report, it's painless. There is no restriction of age. It is just about how committed you are to use it with whoever is taking the test. For kids, you can also, if you're having some I don't know, some doubts about the development, is my kid going in the right direction? Of course, this is not, and I'm please, I want to make a clear statement. We're not replacing any doctor advice. It's very important for you to follow your daily appointments with your doctors, your yearly checkups. For kids, it's even, depending on the age, can be 2 to 4 times a year. You can discuss this with your pediatrician, and of course, it is always of good help. It is not that this can replace the doctor, but for sure it can help you and your doctor have a better approach for your kid whenever, if he's having some delay in growing and development. Yes, for sure this can help, and there's no harm, there's no restriction of age. Could this report find food allergies? Well, not as of now. we've come into some how to say, some discussions, or we haven't found an agreement between the research we've found. Some of them are very opposite on the findings of the genes. So that's why we don't feel like it's for now proper to include. We would love to include it. There's this allergy issue has been raising or going up. Now it's more commonly. A lot of people are getting a lot of food problems. There's a lot of restaurants that are not now, that weren't back 5 years, 10 years ago. There wasn't such a thing of these food allergies, but there's something in the environment that it's certainly making us develop certain allergies. But no, we don't do it for now. We do want to include it, but we haven't finalized yet on that. Okay, let me see. Let me see some other questions. The time for delivery, this depends. Sorry, I can give you some advice on health. I'm more into R&D department. I'm always focusing into the evidence, so creating a product that it's trustworthy and reliable. I'm not into logistics, so I don't know, and it depends on the country you're right now. How many days is the test going to take? So please go with your local distributors and ask for more information, because they might know more than me. For food allergies, for now, I would recommend to do, there are plenty of food allergy tests. Unfortunately, we don't do that, so you might have to go with a different company. But yeah, in the future, it would be really nice for us to have some food allergies tests. It's also depending on the genes. It is not only about the research; it is also about the lab's needs and requirements. Because doing genetic testing, even though it sounds easier the way I explained you, that we match all of the research or the reports that the evidence that we've gathered, that we think it's trustworthy and reliable, with your DNA. For this to happen, there was a lot of work done, like behind the scenes, and the algorithms, the artificial intelligence, that takes a lot of time to prepare. So it's not an easy task, and certainly it is not for food allergies as well. Let me see some one or two more questions. Hold on, I'm going to check on Facebook. Okay, so I guess that's it. No more questions. Well, there was a big number of viewers today. I'm glad that people is liking it. I always try to answer all of your questions. I try to be as much as I can to be connected, answering some direct messages, some here whenever I'm speaking. I'm glad. I try to go step by step, so you don't get I don't know, too much of information can sometimes be hard to retain. So I'd rather be focusing one by one. And for next week, we're going to talk a little bit about vitamins and minerals and the micronutrients. As you all know, it's the same, micronutrients and vitamins and supplements. So I guess this is over for today, and we're going to see you next week. We're going to talk about the next specific part of the DNA health and wellness. And please email me if you have some questions, or be prepared for next week. It would be lovely to have some other participants as well, because I see like the ones that ask are kind of more or less the same. I encourage all of the rest who are seeing us. We have a lot of people on Zoom. We have some people on Facebook. Please take a chance and do your questions. If you have tried selling these tests, what are your concerns? What are your thoughts? Please share. Okay, so I'm going to have to let you go, guys. Here on this side of the world, it's getting late. So see you next time. Bye-bye.